Captain Sarah Mitchell adjusted her uniform one final time before stepping onto the pristine white deck of the Queen Consort Camillas Private. Britannia's crown. The morning sun reflected off the Mediterranean waters as her security team followed behind, their polished boots clicking against the spotless deck. This was supposed to be a routine security inspection, the kind that happened every few months when members of the royal family traveled abroad. Sarah had been head of the Royal Protection Unit for 8 years, and she took pride in her thorough approach to security. Every royal residence, every vehicle, and every vessel had to meet the highest standards of safety. The Queen Consort's yacht was no exception. Even though it rarely left its mooring in Monaco, except for the occasional cruise along the French Riviera, the yacht's captain, a weathered Italian man named Marco Benedetti, greeted them at the main deck. He had been working for the royal household for over 15 years and knew the drill well. His weathered hands gestured toward the various sections of the 200-foot vessel as he began the standard tour. "Everything is prepared for your inspection, Captain Mitchell," Marco said in his thick accent. "The crew quarters, the guest suites, the dining areas, all clean and ready for Her Majesty's next visit." Sarah nodded, pulling out her tablet to begin the security checklist. Her team spread out across the yacht, each member assigned to specific areas. Detective Inspector James Crawford took the lower decks. Sergeant Lisa Wong headed to the engine room, and Constable David Park began checking the communication systems as they walked through the main salon. Sarah noticed the yacht's luxurious furnishings had been recently updated. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and expensive artwork lined the walls. The carpet beneath their feet was thick and newly installed, with an intricate pattern that seemed almost too elaborate for a yacht. "When was this renovation completed?" Sarah asked, making notes on her tablet. Marco scratched his graying beard. "Just last month, Captain. The Queen Consort wanted everything perfect for her summer travels. New carpets, new furniture, new entertainment system." Something in his tone made Sarah pause. In her years of experience, she had learned to trust her instincts, and right now, something felt off. Marco seemed nervous, more nervous than usual for a routine inspection. She knelt down and ran her hand along the edge of the new carpet. The installation looked professional, but there were slight irregularities in the flooring beneath. The carpet seemed to sit higher in some areas than others, creating barely noticeable bumps that most people would miss. "This carpeting must have been expensive," Sarah commented, standing up and brushing off her hands.
"Yes."
"Very expensive," Marco replied quickly. "Only the best for the royal family, you understand." Sarah called Detective Inspector Crawford over the radio. "James, I need you to bring the portable scanner to the main salon. I want to check something." While they waited, Sarah continued her visual inspection of the room. The walls appeared solid, but she noticed that some of the artwork seemed to be positioned at odd angles, as if they had been recently moved and not quite put back in their original positions. Crawford arrived with the electronic scanner, a device that could detect hollow spaces behind walls and floors. "What are we looking for, Captain?" "Just being thorough," Sarah replied, taking the scanner from him. "Start with the walls behind the artwork." As Crawford began scanning, Sarah focused on the floor. She moved the scanner slowly across the carpet, listening for any changes in the electronic tone that would indicate empty spaces beneath. For the first few minutes, everything seemed normal. Then, near the center of the room, the scanner's tone changed dramatically. "There's definitely a hollow space under here," Sarah announced, her heart rate increasing. "A large one." Marco's face had gone pale. "Perhaps it is just the yacht's construction, Captain. These vessels have many compartments for storage and machinery." Sarah wasn't buying it. She had inspected dozens of yachts over the years, and she knew their standard construction. This hollow space was too large and too perfectly positioned to be part of the original design. "Mr. Benedetti, I'm going to need the original blueprints for this yacht," Sarah said firmly, "and I want them now." Marco hesitated, wringing his hands nervously. "The blueprints? They are not on board. They would be with the yacht's builders in Italy." "Then you'd better contact them immediately," Sarah replied. her voice taking on the authoritative tone that had made her one of the youngest captains in the Royal Protection Unit's history. While Marco made his phone calls, Sarah had her team expand their search. Detective Inspector Crawford found similar hollow spaces in 2 of the guest bedrooms, while Sergeant Wong discovered irregularities in the engine room that didn't match the yacht's specifications. The more they searched, the more convinced Sarah became that they had stumbled onto something much bigger than a simple security inspection. The hollow spaces were too numerous and too well concealed to be accidental. Someone had spent considerable time and money modifying this yacht. As the afternoon wore on, Sarah gathered her team on the upper deck for a private conference. The Mediterranean breeze carried the sounds of other boats in the harbor, but the Britannia's crown felt isolated from the normal world of luxury yachts and wealthy tourists. "We found at least 6 hollow spaces throughout the vessel," Crawford reported. "Some are behind false walls, others are beneath the flooring. Whatever they're hiding, it's big." Sergeant Wong nodded in agreement. "The engine room modifications are particularly suspicious. Someone has created hidden compartments that would be almost impossible to detect during a casual inspection." Sarah looked back toward the main salon, where Marco was still making frantic phone calls. "We need to contact headquarters immediately. This is no longer a routine security inspection." She pulled out her secure satellite phone and dialed the emergency number for the Royal Protection Unit's command center in London. After identifying herself, she was connected directly to Chief Superintendent Robert Hayes. "Sir, we have a situation at the Queen Consort's yacht in Monaco," Sarah reported. "We've discovered multiple hidden compartments throughout the vessel. I believe we may have uncovered some kind of smuggling operation." The silence on the other end of the line lasted several seconds. When Chief Superintendent Hayes finally spoke, his voice was grave. "Captain Mitchell, you are to treat this as a matter of national security. Do not allow anyone on or off that yacht until further notice. I'm sending additional support immediately." As Sarah ended the call, she realized that what had started as a routine morning inspection was about to become the biggest case of her career. The question was, what exactly were they hiding in the Queen Consort's yacht, and who was behind it? Within 3 hours, the quiet harbor in Monaco had transformed into a scene of controlled chaos. 2 additional boats carrying Royal Protection Unit specialists had arrived, along with a team from Interpol and representatives from the Monaco police force. Captain Sarah Mitchell watched from the yacht's upper deck as the various law enforcement agencies coordinated their approach to what was rapidly becoming an international incident. The Queen Consort's yacht was now officially under quarantine. No one could enter or leave without explicit permission from the lead investigators. Marco Benedetti sat in the main salon under guard, his hands shaking as he sipped coffee and repeatedly claimed he knew nothing about any hidden compartments. Detective Chief Inspector Amanda Foster from Scotland Yard's Special Crimes Unit had taken charge of the overall investigation. She was a tall woman with sharp gray eyes who had built her reputation handling sensitive cases involving government officials and international crime syndicates. Sarah briefed her thoroughly on everything they had discovered during the morning inspection. "The hidden compartments are professionally constructed," Sarah explained as they walked through the yacht together. "Whoever did this work knew exactly what they were doing. These aren't amateur modifications." Inspector Foster nodded, examining the scanner readings on Sarah's tablet. "The question is whether the royal household knew about these modifications, or if someone else has been using this yacht without their knowledge." The team's first priority was gaining access to the hidden compartments without damaging potential evidence. They had brought specialized equipment from London, including fiber optic cameras that could snake through tiny openings and advanced drilling tools that could create minimal entry points. Sergeant Wong had been assigned to work with the technical team in the main salon, where they had identified the largest hollow space. Using a small drill, they created a hole barely wider than a pencil and inserted the fiber optic camera. "We're getting images now," Wong announced, watching the feed on her portable monitor. "There's definitely something in there." Sarah and Inspector Foster crowded around the screen. The camera's light revealed a space about 6 feet square and 3 feet deep. But what they saw inside made both women's breath catch in their throats. Stacks upon stacks of what appeared to be currency filled the hidden compartment. Bills of various denominations and different currencies were carefully wrapped in plastic and organized in neat rows. The amount was staggering, far more money than anyone would need for legitimate yacht expenses. Estimated value? Inspector Foster asked quietly. Sergeant Wong did quick mental calculations based on what they could see. From this compartment alone, I'd estimate at least 10 million pounds, possibly more. And this is just one of the spaces we found. The discovery changed everything. What had begun as a security inspection had now become a major financial crimes investigation. Potential connections to money laundering, tax evasion, or worse. Inspector Foster immediately contacted her superiors in London while Sarah coordinated with the Monaco authorities. The yacht would need to remain secured. While they obtained proper search warrants and navigated the complex international legal requirements for investigating property belonging to the British royal family, Dr. Elena Rossi, a forensic accountant from Interpol, arrived later that afternoon. She specialized in tracing illegal money movements and had worked on some of the highest-profile financial crimes in Europe. Her presence indicated just how seriously the authorities were taking this discovery. "We need to document everything before we open any more compartments," Dr. Rossi explained to the assembled investigators. "The way the money is packaged, the serial numbers, the currencies involved, all of this will help us trace where it came from and how long it's been here." While the technical teams worked on safely accessing the hidden spaces, Sarah focused on interviewing the yacht's crew. Besides Marco, there were 4 other permanent staff members, 2 deckhands, a chef, and a stewardess. All had worked for the royal household for at least 5 years. The chef, Marie Dubois, was a nervous French woman who insisted she only worked in the kitchen and knew nothing about the yacht's other areas. The deckhands, both young men from Montenegro, claimed they were only responsible for basic maintenance and cleaning. The stewardess, Isabella Santos, had worked on luxury yachts for over a decade and seemed the most knowledgeable about the vessel's operations. The recent renovations were unusual, Isabella admitted during her interview with Sarah. "Usually when we do maintenance work, the regular crew is involved. But for these modifications, Mr. Benedetti hired outside contractors. He said they were specialists in luxury yacht interiors." Sarah made detailed notes. "Did you see what kind of work they were doing?" "They worked mostly at night," Isabella continued, "and they always asked the regular crew to stay away from certain areas while they were working. We thought it was strange, but Mr. Benedetti said it was for security reasons, to protect the Queen Consort's privacy. This information was crucial. It suggested that the hidden compartments had been installed recently, possibly without the knowledge of most of the crew or even the royal household itself. By evening, the technical team had successfully opened 3 of the 6 hidden compartments they had identified. Each contained similar stacks of currency. But they also found something else that made the investigation even more serious. In the second compartment, hidden beneath layers of cash, they discovered several hard drives and what appeared to be encrypted communication devices. Dr. Rossi recognized them immediately as the type of equipment used by sophisticated criminal organizations to coordinate international operations. "This isn't just about money," she told Inspector Foster. "These devices suggest we're dealing with an active criminal network that has been using this yacht as a base of operations." Encrypted devices were immediately sent to cybercrime specialists in London for analysis. If they could crack the encryption, they might uncover the full scope of whatever operation had been running from the Queen Consort's yacht as night fell over Monaco harbor. Sarah stood on the yacht's deck and looked out at the twinkling lights of the city. The investigation was moving quickly, but she knew they were still at the beginning of what would likely be a complex and far-reaching case. Her secure phone buzzed with a message from Chief Superintendent Hayes in London. The royal household had been quietly informed of the situation, and arrangements were being made to ensure that Queen Consort Camillas' security was not compromised while the investigation continued. The message also contained disturbing news. Preliminary checks of financial records showed that the yacht had made numerous unexplained trips over the past year, often to ports known for their loose banking regulations and high levels of criminal activity. Sarah realized they weren't just dealing with hidden money anymore. They had potentially uncovered a sophisticated international criminal operation that had been using one of the British royal family's most private and trusted assets as cover for their activities. The question now was how deep this conspiracy went, and whether members of the royal household might unknowingly have become victims of one of the most audacious criminal schemes in recent memory. The breakthrough came at 3 in the morning when Detective Inspector Crawford made a discovery that would change the entire direction of the investigation. While examining the yacht's navigation system, he found evidence that someone had been systematically altering the vessel's GPS records to hide its true travel patterns. Captain Sarah Mitchell was awakened in her temporary quarters aboard one of the police vessels to hear Crawford's report. The technical analysis showed that while the official logs indicated the yacht had remained in Monaco for most of the past year, the actual GPS data revealed numerous secret trips to ports across the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and even the coast of West Africa. Been very clever about it, Crawford explained as he showed Sarah the computer evidence. The false logs were professionally created and would pass most casual inspections. But our cyber specialists found the original data hidden in backup files that someone forgot to erase. Inspector Foster joined them in the yacht's communication room, where banks of electronic equipment hummed quietly in the early morning darkness. The discovery of the altered navigation records meant that whatever criminal operation they had uncovered was far more extensive than anyone had initially imagined. Changes everything, Foster said grimly. We're not just dealing with money storage anymore. This yacht has been actively used for transportation, which means we're looking at international trafficking of some kind. Dr. Rossi had been working through the night analyzing the currency found in the hidden compartments. Her preliminary report revealed that the money came from dozens of different countries. It included some very rare denominations that were typically associated with black market transactions. The variety of currencies suggests this operation spans multiple continents, she explained to the assembled investigators. But more importantly, I've found currency that's only available in certain regions known for conflict diamonds, rare earth minerals, and other high-value commodities that are often illegally traded. Sarah felt the pieces of the puzzle beginning to form a disturbing picture. The yacht wasn't just hiding money, it was serving as a mobile. It's a base for a smuggling operation that dealt in some of the world's most valuable and dangerous commodities. At dawn, they received word from London. The cybercrime specialists had successfully broken the encryption on one of the communication devices. The contents were shocking enough that Chief Superintendent Hayes himself called Sarah directly on her secure line. Captain Mitchell, what you've discovered is bigger than we could have imagined, Hayes said without preamble. The encrypted communications showed this yacht has been used to coordinate the movement of conflict. Diamonds from West Africa to buyers in Europe and North America. We're talking about $1 billion operation. Sarah felt her heart race. Conflict diamonds were one of the most serious international crimes, directly funding armed conflicts and human rights abuses in some of the world's poorest regions. If the Queen Consort's yacht had been used in this trade, it represented a massive breach of both security and international law. The investigation team was quietly reinforced with specialists from the International Diamond Registry and experts in conflict mineral trafficking. They needed to determine exactly how the yacht had been used and whether anyone in the royal household had any knowledge of these activities. Marco Benedetti remained the key figure in their investigation. After 18 hours of questioning, his story began to change dramatically. Under pressure from experienced interrogators, he finally admitted that he had been approached by what he thought was a legitimate security company 6 months earlier. They said they were hired by the royal household to upgrade the yacht's security features. Marco confessed during his recorded interview with Inspector Foster. They showed me official-looking documents and paid me a very large sum to allow them to make modifications to the vessel. Inspector Foster pressed him for more details. What exactly did they tell you these modifications were for? They said the royal family needed secure storage areas for important documents and valuables when traveling to areas with political instability. Marco continued, his voice shaking. I believed them because they knew so much about the yacht's construction and the royal family's travel patterns. Sarah watched the interview through a two-way mirror, taking notes as Marco described how the criminals had manipulated him. It was a sophisticated operation that had taken months to plan and execute. The supposed security company had provided Marco with false documentation and had even arranged for him to receive what appeared to be official authorization from the royal household's administrative offices. Only now, under intensive investigation, were the authorities discovering that these documents had been expertly forged. They used the yacht for 6 major trips, Marco admitted. Each time they loaded and unloaded cargo in the middle of the night. They told me it was sensitive security equipment, and I was instructed never to look inside the containers or ask questions. The picture became clearer with each revelation. The criminals had essentially hijacked the Queen Consort's yacht, using its royal status and diplomatic immunity to transport conflict diamonds across international borders without the usual customs inspections that would have exposed their illegal cargo. Dr. Rossi's analysis of the hidden compartments revealed additional evidence supporting this theory. Using advanced chemical analysis, her team found microscopic traces of diamond dust in several of the secret storage areas. They also discovered specialized packaging materials typically used in the diamond trade. The evidence is conclusive, she reported to the investigation team. This yacht was definitely used to transport large quantities of uncut diamonds. Based on the trace evidence and the money we found, I estimate we're looking at transactions worth over $1 billion. The scale of the operation was staggering. The criminals had managed to infiltrate one of the most secure and trusted vessels in the British Royal Fleet, turning it into their personal smuggling ship without the knowledge of its legitimate owners. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery came when the cybercrime team broke the encryption on the remaining communication devices. The messages revealed that the operation was still active and that another major shipment was scheduled to take place within the next 2 weeks. Inspector Foster called an emergency meeting of all the investigation teams. According to the communications we've decrypted, there's a shipment of conflict diamonds worth approximately £50 million currently being prepared in Sierra Leone. The plan is to use this yacht to transport them to buyers in Switzerland. Sarah realized they were at a critical decision point. They could arrest everyone involved immediately and shut down the operation. Or they could attempt to use the yacht as bait to capture the higher-level criminals who were running the entire network. If we move too quickly, we'll only catch the small players, Foster continued. But if we can coordinate with international authorities, we might be able to bring down the entire organization. The decision would ultimately be made by officials far above Sarah's level. But she knew that whatever they chose, the investigation was about to enter its most dangerous phase. The criminals who had infiltrated the royal yacht were sophisticated, well-funded, and had already demonstrated their willingness to take enormous risks, as Sarah looked out at the Mediterranean sunrise. She wondered how many other royal or diplomatic assets might have been compromised by criminal organizations. The yacht investigation was revealing security vulnerabilities that could have implications far beyond this single case. The next phase of the investigation would require careful coordination between multiple international agencies and might put several undercover operatives at significant risk. But the potential to shut down $1 billion conflict diamond operation made those risks worthwhile. The operation to expose the complete conflict diamond network began with the decision made at the highest levels of international law enforcement. After consultations between London, Monaco, Geneva, and Freetown, authorities agreed to let the criminals proceed with their planned shipment while monitoring every aspect of the operation. Captain Sarah Mitchell found herself at the center of one of the most complex undercover operations in recent history. The yacht would continue to appear normal while being equipped with sophisticated surveillance technology that would document every step of the diamond smuggling process. Special Agent Marcus Reed from Interpol's Diamond Trafficking Unit arrived in Monaco to coordinate the international aspects of the operation. He was a veteran investigator who had spent 15 years tracking conflict diamond networks across Africa and Europe. His expertise would be crucial in identifying the key players in the organization. These people aren't just smugglers, Reed explained to the assembled team. They're part of a network that directly funds armed conflicts in West Africa. Every diamond they move represents violence, displacement, human suffering in some of the world's most vulnerable communities. The plan required extraordinary secrecy and precision. Marco Benedetti had agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for reduced charges, but his role would be the most dangerous part of the operation. He would need to continue acting as the yacht's captain while wearing hidden recording devices and following very specific instructions from the investigation team inspector. Foster oversaw the installation of microscopic cameras and listening devices throughout the yacht. The technology was so advanced that it would be virtually impossible to detect, even by criminals who suspected they might be under surveillance. Sarah's role devolved from investigator to operational coordinator. She would remain nearby on one of the police vessels, monitoring the surveillance feeds and coordinating with international authorities. As the criminal operation unfolded, the encrypted communications indicated that the diamond pickup would occur off the coast of Sierra Leone in exactly 8 days. The yacht would need to travel there under the pretense of a routine royal family vacation trip. With the criminals believing their operation remained undetected, Dr. Rossi worked with banking specialists to trace the money flows associated with the operation. Her analysis revealed connections to shell companies in 12 different countries, some of which had been used to purchase weapons that had ended up in conflict zones across West Africa. "This is bigger than just diamond smuggling," she reported to the team. "We're looking at a complete supply chain that connects illegal mining operations to weapons, dealers to money launderers, to luxury buyers in Europe and North America." The yacht's departure from Monaco was carefully choreographed to appear normal while ensuring that international authorities could track its progress. Spanish and Portuguese naval forces were quietly alerted to the vessel's route, and French intelligence services provided additional surveillance from their African operations. Sarah monitored the yacht's progress from the command center that had been established aboard a French naval vessel, following at a discreet distance. The surveillance technology was working perfectly, providing clear audio and video of everything that's happening on deck and in the modified compartments. On the third day of the voyage, the first criminals boarded the yacht from a speedboat that approached during the night near the coast of Morocco. Sarah watched through the hidden cameras as 3 men came aboard, each carrying equipment bags and speaking in a mixture of English and Arabic. The leader of the group was a tall man with graying hair who introduced himself to Marco as Mr. Khalil. He appeared to be in his 50s and carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to command. Intelligence databases quickly identified him as Rashid Al-Halil, a Lebanese businessman wanted by Interpol for diamond trafficking and arms dealing. Finding him here is a major breakthrough, Agent Reed told Sarah as they watched Al-Hal inspect the yacht's hidden compartments. "He's been one of our most wanted targets for over 5 years. If we can gather enough evidence during this operation, we'll be able to prosecute him for crimes spanning 3 continents." Al-Halil's presence confirmed that this was indeed a high-level criminal operation. He personally oversaw every aspect of the yacht's preparation for the diamond pickup, demonstrating detailed knowledge of international shipping routes and customs procedures. The criminals installed additional equipment in the yacht's communication room, including satellite phones and encrypted radio systems that would allow them to coordinate with their contacts in Sierra Leone. Sarah's team recorded every frequency and communication protocol, building a complete picture of the network's operational structure. On the 5th day, the yacht rendezvoused with a larger cargo vessel near the Canary Islands. Sarah watched in fascination as the criminals conducted what appeared to be a practice run for the actual diamond transfer. They moved weighted containers between the vessels with military precision, demonstrating that this was a well-rehearsed operation. The cargo vessel was registered in Panama, but was actually owned by one of the shell companies that Dr. Rossi had identified in her financial analysis. Intelligence services had been tracking this ship for months, but had never been able to prove its connection to illegal activities. During the practice transfer, The surveillance equipment picked up conversations that revealed the full scope of the upcoming diamond shipment. El Hall spoke with someone he called the Colonel, apparently a military officer in Sierra Leone who controlled access to the diamond mines. The Colonel has agreed to provide security for the transfer, Al-Halil told his associates, but he wants an additional 10% of the final sale price. These military types are becoming more greedy each year. Sarah realized they were not just witnessing a smuggling operation, but documentation of corruption that reached into the highest levels of Sierra Leone's government and military. This information could be crucial for international efforts to combat conflict diamond trading in West Africa. The yacht continued toward its destination while international authorities prepared for the most dangerous phase of the operation. Teams from the Sierra Leone Criminal Investigation Department had been secretly briefed on the situation and were positioning assets to monitor the diamond pickup from the African side. Agent Reed coordinated with contacts throughout West Africa to ensure that the evidence gathered during the operation would be admissible in courts across multiple jurisdictions. The goal was not just to arrest the individuals involved, but to build cases that would dismantle the entire network. "We have one chance to get this right," Reed told Sarah as they reviewed the operational timeline. "If something goes wrong, and the criminals suspect they're being monitored, they'll disappear and rebuild their operation elsewhere. We might never get another opportunity like this." The yacht was now approaching the coordinates where the diamond transfer would take place. A remote area of ocean, approximately 50 miles off the Sierra Leone coast. Satellite surveillance showed that several other vessels were converging on the same location, including what appeared to be a military patrol boat that was presumably under the control of the corrupt colonel. Mentioned in the intercepted communications, Sarah felt the tension building as the operation entered its final phase. Everything they had worked for during the past 2 weeks would be decided in the next few hours. The success of the mission would not only expose a billion-dollar criminal network, but could also provide evidence that would help combat conflict diamond trading across West Africa. As she watched the yacht's final approach to the rendezvous point through the surveillance cameras, Sarah knew that she was about to witness one of the most significant breakthroughs in international crime fighting. The question was whether they could maintain their cover long enough to gather all the evidence they needed while ensuring the safety of everyone involved in the operation. The diamond transfer began at exactly midnight, 50 miles off the coast of Sierra Leone. In waters so dark that the only lights came from the vessels involved in the illegal operation, Captain Sarah Mitchell watched through night vision surveillance cameras as 3 boats approached the Queen Consort's yacht from different directions. Their movements coordinated with military precision. The largest vessel was a converted fishing boat that had been modified with reinforced storage, compartments, and additional fuel tanks for long-distance travel. Intelligence analysis had identified this boat as having made similar trips between West Africa and the Mediterranean over the past 2 years, always avoiding major shipping lanes and customs checkpoints. Agent Marcus Reed monitored the operation from the command center, communicating quietly with international law enforcement teams positioned throughout the region. "All units, we have visual confirmation of the target vessels. Operation Sparkle Cut is now in active phase." Sarah watched Al-Hal coordinate the transfer with the same professional efficiency he had demonstrated throughout the voyage. He communicated with the other vessel captains using code words and hand signals, showing that this criminal network operated with sophisticated security protocols. The first boat to reach the yacht carried what appeared to be a high-ranking military officer in Sierra Leone Army uniform. Through the surveillance audio, they heard him being introduced as Colonel Samuel Karoma, the same colonel mentioned in the intercepted communications. Colonel Karoma brought with him 2 large metal cases that clearly required significant effort to move. The hidden cameras captured clear images of the cases being opened on the yacht's deck, revealing hundreds of uncut diamonds nestled in specialized foam padding. "Those are some of the largest rough diamonds I've ever seen," Dr. Rossi whispered as she analyzed the surveillance feed from her position on the monitoring vessel. "Based on their size and quality, we're looking at stones worth at least 50 million pounds, possibly much more." Al-Halil examined each diamond carefully using professional jeweler's equipment. Documenting their size and estimated quality in a leather notebook, the surveillance cameras captured every detail of his assessment process, providing evidence that would be crucial for proving the scope and value of the smuggling operation. The second boat carried additional military personnel who appeared to be providing security for the operation. Sarah counted at least 8 armed soldiers, all wearing Sierra Leone Army uniforms but carrying weapons that were more sophisticated than standard military equipment. A level of military involvement suggests corruption that goes very high. Up in the Sierra Leone government, Agent Reed observed, "We're not just dealing with rogue soldiers here. This requires coordination at the command level." The third vessel brought the most disturbing cargo. Along with additional diamonds, the surveillance equipment detected wooden crates that intelligence analysts quickly identified as containing weapons and ammunition. The criminals weren't just smuggling diamonds out of West Africa. They were smuggling weapons into the region. Colonel Karoma personally supervised the loading of these weapons onto his boat, making it clear that the diamonds and arms were part of the same criminal enterprise. The weapons would likely be used to maintain control over the diamond mines and intimidate anyone who might interfere with the illegal mining operations. Audio surveillance picked up conversations that revealed the full extent of the network's operations. Al-Halil discussed upcoming shipments with Colonel Karoma, mentioning diamond pickups scheduled for the next 3 months and weapons deliveries to several different groups across West Africa. "The buyers in Geneva are becoming impatient," Al-Halil told the colonel. "They want larger stones and they're willing to pay premium prices. Can your mining operation increase production?" Colonel Karoma's response was chilling. "We have identified new mining sites in the eastern provinces. The local villages will need to be relocated, but that can be arranged. My soldiers can handle any resistance." Sarah felt sick as she realized they were documenting evidence of forced displacement and human rights abuses that were directly connected to the diamond smuggling operation. The surveillance recordings would provide crucial evidence for international human rights organizations and war crimes prosecutors. Actual transfer of diamonds from the African boats to the yacht's hidden compartments took over 3 hours. The criminals demonstrated remarkable organization and attention to detail, carefully cataloging every stone and ensuring that the yacht's secret storage areas were properly secured. Dr. Rossi estimated that approximately 800 individual diamonds were transferred to the yacht, representing the output of several mining operations over a period of months. The variety of stone types and qualities suggests they're collecting diamonds from multiple sources, across Sierra Leone and possibly neighboring countries as well. As dawn approached, the criminal vessels began to separate and head back toward the African coast. But the surveillance operation captured one final piece of evidence that would prove crucial in prosecuting the case. Al-Halil made a satellite phone call to someone he addressed as the Swiss connection, clearly arranging the sale of the diamonds that were now hidden aboard the royal yacht. The conversation was conducted in a mixture of English and French, with specific references to buyers in Geneva and Zurich. The merchandise is secured and we're proceeding to the designated delivery point, Al-Halil reported. Prepare the buyers for inspection and payment. We should arrive in Mediterranean waters within 5 days. Agent Reed immediately contacted Interpol headquarters to coordinate with Swiss authorities. We now have evidence of the complete supply chain from illegal mining to final sale. Swiss police will need to be ready to arrest the buyers when the yacht reaches European waters. The yacht began its journey back toward the Mediterranean, now carrying what was essentially a floating museum of evidence, documenting one of the most sophisticated conflict diamond operations ever discovered. Every conversation, every transaction, and every criminal involved had been recorded in detail. Sarah coordinated with the international monitoring teams to ensure that the yacht's progress would be tracked continuously during its return voyage. They couldn't afford to lose surveillance coverage now that they were so close to exposing the complete criminal network. The hidden cameras showed Al-Halil and his associates settling into the yacht's luxury accommodations for the long journey back to Europe. They appeared relaxed and confident, completely unaware that their every move was being documented by law enforcement agencies from multiple countries. They think they've pulled off the perfect crime, Sarah observed as she watched Alhala enjoying an expensive dinner in the yacht's main salon. Using the royal yacht gives them diplomatic immunity from routine inspections and allows them to travel freely through international waters. Agent Reed nodded grimly. That's exactly what makes this case so important. If we can successfully prosecute everyone involved, it will send a message to other criminal organizations that no cover, no matter how prestigious or well-protected, will shield them from justice. The yacht surveillance systems continued recording as it traveled through international waters, building an ever-growing database of evidence that would support prosecutions across multiple. The final phase of Operation Sparkle Cut began as the Queen Consort's yacht approached the French coast near Cannes, where Al-Hilal had arranged to meet the Swiss diamond buyers. Captain Sarah Mitchell coordinated with law enforcement teams from 6 different countries as they prepared for the largest conflict diamond bust in European history, Swiss. Police had identified the buyers through the intercepted communications as members of a sophisticated money laundering organization based in Geneva. These individuals had been under investigation for over 2 years, but authorities had never been able to gather sufficient evidence for prosecution until now. The yacht docked at a private marina that catered to wealthy international clients, the kind of place where million-dollar transactions occurred regularly without attracting attention. Elay had chosen the location carefully, knowing that the marina's exclusive clientele and discreet security would provide cover for the diamond. Sale. Inspector Foster coordinated the arrest teams while Sarah monitored the final surveillance recordings from her position on a nearby observation vessel. After 2 weeks of careful planning and international cooperation, the moment of truth had finally arrived. The Swiss buyers arrived in a convoy of luxury vehicles, including a specially modified van that contained professional diamond evaluation equipment. The surveillance cameras captured their faces clearly as they boarded the yacht, providing photographic evidence that would be crucial for the prosecution. The lead buyer was identified as Victor Steinberg, a Swiss businessman who operated several legitimate jewelry stores in Geneva and Zurich, while allegedly laundering money for various criminal organizations. His presence confirmed that the conflict diamonds were destined for high-end retail markets across Europe. Dr. Rossi watched the diamond evaluation process through the hidden cameras, documenting how the criminals assessed the value of stones that had been extracted through forced labor and violence in West Africa. They're treating these diamonds like any other commodity, she observed with disgust. They don't care about the human cost behind each stone. The negotiation between Al-Hel and Steinberg was conducted with business-like efficiency. They discussed prices, payment methods, and delivery schedules for future shipments, providing evidence of an ongoing criminal relationship that spanned multiple transactions. The current shipment is valued at 48 million euros, Steinberg announced after completing his evaluation. Payment will be transferred to the agreed accounts within 24 hours of delivery. Confirmation. Agent Reed coordinated with banking authorities in Switzerland and Lebanon to trace the financial aspects of the transaction. The money trail would provide additional evidence linking the diamond sales to other criminal activities and help authorities identify additional members of the network. At exactly 3 o'clock in the afternoon, law enforcement teams moved simultaneously in France, Switzerland, Sierra Leone, and Lebanon. The coordinated arrests were designed to prevent any of the criminals from warning their associates or destroying evidence. Sarah watched through the surveillance cameras as armed French police boarded the yacht and arrested Al-Hela and his associates. The surprise was complete. The criminals had no opportunity to resist or attempt to destroy evidence at the same moment. Swiss authorities arrested Steinberg and his team as they attempted to leave the marina with their newly purchased diamonds. The timing was crucial because it prevented the conflict diamonds from entering the legitimate jewelry market, where they would have been nearly impossible to trace. In Sierra Leone, international arrest warrants were executed against Colonel Karoma and several other military officers who had been identified through the surveillance recordings. The arrests were carried out by a joint task force that included Sierra Leone police and international investigators. The Yacht itself became a floating evidence warehouse containing millions of dollars worth of conflict diamonds. Sophisticated communication equipment, forged documents, and detailed records of criminal transactions spanning 3 continents. Marco Benedetti, who had cooperated throughout the investigation, was taken into protective custody while authorities assessed the threats against him from other members of the criminal network who remained at large. His testimony would be crucial for prosecuting the higher-level criminals who had manipulated him into allowing the yacht to be used for smuggling. Dr. Rossi's analysis of the seized diamonds revealed that they had come from at least 12 different mining operations across West Africa, some of which had been previously unknown to international authorities. The information would help humanitarian organizations identify communities that had been displaced by illegal mining and provide them with assistance. The communication devices found on the yacht provided investigators with a treasure trove of intelligence about other criminal networks operating across Africa and Europe. The encrypted files contain details of weapons shipments, money laundering operations, and corruption schemes involving government officials in multiple countries. Agent Reed coordinated with international prosecutors to ensure that the evidence could be used effectively in courts across multiple jurisdictions. This case will generate prosecutions for years to come, he told Sarah as they reviewed the massive amount of evidence that had been collected. The investigation revealed that the conflict diamond network had been operating for at least 5 years, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in illegal profits while contributing to violence and instability across West Africa. The yacht had been used for only a small portion of their operations, but its royal status had made it an ideal vehicle for high-value shipments. Chief Superintendent Hayes flew to Monaco to personally oversee the conclusion of the investigation. The security implications for the royal family were serious, and new protocols would need to be developed to prevent similar infiltrations in the future. This investigation demonstrates both the vulnerabilities in our security systems and the dedication of our people in exposing criminal activity, Hayes told Sarah during his visit. Your thorough approach to what should have been a routine inspection has resulted in one of the most significant international crime busts in recent history. The Queen Consort was quietly briefed on the investigation and expressed her horror that her yacht had been used to facilitate violence and suffering in West Africa. The royal household implemented immediate security reviews for all their properties and transportation assets. Sarah returned to London knowing that her career had been forever changed by the investigation. The case had exposed the sophisticated methods used by international criminal networks to infiltrate even the most secure and trusted institutions. The prosecution of the conflict diamond network would take months to complete, but the evidence gathered during Operation Sparkle Cut was so comprehensive that convictions were virtually certain. More importantly, the investigation had provided humanitarian organizations and government agencies with detailed information about illegal mining operations that they could use to protect vulnerable communities across West Africa. As Sarah filed her final report on the case, she reflected on how a routine security inspection had evolved into an investigation that had exposed billion-dollar criminal operations spanning 3 continents. The experience had reinforced her belief that attention to detail and willingness to question unusual circumstances were the most important tools in fighting sophisticated international crime.